Love Life, featuring your hosts Rebecca Detman and Jane Donovan.
The sun shines bright as it moves across my face. I feel the light.
I trust in my mind, my body, and my heart that all is well.
Welcome to Love Life. I'm Rebecca Detman.
And I'm Jane Donovan.
And we're sitting on the Love Life couch today with a very special guest, and we haven't had a guest for a little while because, as our listeners know, they are few and far between because we only choose people that we think are really, really different in what they're offering, in things that maybe people haven't heard before, covering areas that are just a little bit unique. And I think we found someone today that is going to bring you some information that you definitely will not have heard in mainstream healing circles and certainly mainstream medicine, of course, because we are looking at menopause today. And while many of our listeners are not yet at the age where this is happening to them, I was saying to Jane the other day, it's a little bit like when you talk to young girls about periods. They're so interested, even though they haven't started menstruating yet, they still want to know. And I'm pretty sure that some of the things we'll talk about today are going to stick in some of the ladies' minds.
Well, not just that, what about the men as well?
The men who have to go through
the long-suffering men. My poor husband, I'm 53, totally going through menopause, and I have 2 teenage girls and he's got a man cave.
Yes, right. So we've brought in our guest today, and her name is Inge Sarathulsingh, and she is going to be really talking at a much deeper level about this amazing, beautiful process in the life cycle. And I'm sure from many approaches, from the physical, from the spiritual, from the intellectual, from the emotional, she's going to be covering off what to expect when this happens to you, if it hasn't happened already or it's not happening now. So Inge is a German background, and she may talk a little bit about that today. She's a physio and she does acupuncture. She understands the value of hypno, of EFT, and she specialises in working with 50 plus women. And she's really into reconnecting themselves and their emotions around their bodies and their stresses and their processes. So she's going to go into that. She does coaching, she does retreats, she does workshops on her website, which is called embracingyour50s.com. And on that note, we'd like to welcome you to the show, Inge. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Thank you very much, Jane. It's an absolute pleasure to be here today. Thank you. What an amazing introduction.
Oh, thank you. Look, we're very lucky to have you because we've certainly never touched on any content like this before of this specific niche nature. So we're going to ask you how you came to this specific niche content yourself through your life journey, and perhaps a little bit about your story.
Well, as you said, I was born in Germany after the war, and everybody was very traumatized, so were my parents, and the focus, I think each person's focus was more on their own suffering, and a loving upbringing wasn't just, it wasn't part of what life offered. So I grew up with parents that were traumatized. I also grew up in a time when it was very much girls aren't good enough, girls aren't the same than boys. Girls don't need to go to uni. You don't pay any money for girls for their education. They have to be obedient, smile, and look nice. That was about all. And keep house, of course.
So a combination of the era combined with the complete emotional trauma in post-war Germany, where I would imagine a lot of people would have had a lot of post-traumatic shock disorder and emotional traumas, and then totally shut down emotionally to deal with it, but then were raising families.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Wow.
And because birth control wasn't so effective than it was today, the children just popped out.
Yes, the baby boomers, yes.
The baby boomers, that's correct, yes. So then I grew up with a lot of limiting beliefs, like I'm not good enough, I'm just a stupid little girl, I can never get it right, I have to work hard to get what I want, but you never can get what you want anyhow. So all these belief systems, all the traumas and these belief systems, they are stored in our subconscious mind. And they are the base to every thought, every action, every word we speak throughout our whole life. It's like a computer being programmed. And when I got to my 50s, I was married twice before I got to my 50s. And of course, I was in a relationship with each of those husbands, but I never really felt deeply loved. But I I didn't believe that I could do better. They were both very nice men, yeah? But I believed I didn't deserve love. So consequently, I picked husbands that gave me the feeling they didn't love me.
And you hadn't probably seen that role modelled either in childhood. You hadn't seen what loving relationships looked like. So
Correct.
How do you know what a marriage is supposed to be?
Correct. So then I go through life, I study to be a physio, and then I immigrate to Australia and have no recognition of being a physio. Then I studied to be an acupuncturist, but I moved to an area like Mullumbimby, Byron Bay, where there's lots and lots of healers, and I can't work as an acupuncturist. Again, I don't deserve. I'm not good enough to be working in the profession that I love. Yeah. So
it was a reoccurring pattern that was happening in your life of not being worthy enough, therefore, even though you were striving and turning up and showing up and trying to get things happening in your life, you were completely subconsciously blocking this.
Correct. And I'm not working as an acupuncturist anymore, but clients, I still walk into ex-clients here in Mullumbimby today, and I walked in a lady the other day, and she was shocked when she heard that I'm not working as an acupuncturist anymore, because she said, you were the best thing, and she could still remember the words I had said to her 10 years prior in our last session. So I was very, very good. But the change came for me when I was menopausal, and I had the menopausal, the symptoms, the hot flushes, the night sweats. But the most difficult thing was the frustration and the irritability. And it was almost as if I'm losing my mind. I just making it through a day was very difficult. I wasn't myself anymore. I wasn't my joyful, bubbly being. I was just grumpy and don't get in my way. I didn't like myself, And it took me a long time to work out what is going on here. And that's when I started searching. The acupuncture helped me to keep my system, my symptoms under control, but it didn't get me to come to the root of the irritability and the frustration.
The emotional depth. And Inge, what scientifically is happening in the body when you say, all the irritability and stuff? What's going on in a woman's body at that time physiologically?
Very good question, Rebecca. Really interesting. I found out after I started, then started working with EFT and researching menopause. And so what I found was the hormones, FSH and LH, follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormones, they are involved in getting the egg to grow. When we come to menopause, that's not happening anymore. So really, we wouldn't need any FSH or LH anymore, right? But with perimenopause, they are actually in higher quantities in the body than ever. And science have been looking at, well, why is that? And one of the jobs these hormones have is they go straight to the woman's brain and give her this strong desire to do something for herself.
Oh, wow.
Look out, world. I'm having that happening now.
Not only that, but also during our childbearing years, the same hormones, they kickstart the release of feel-good chemicals after we've done our mothering and we've kept the peace and we stayed in our place, we didn't rock the boat. When we do that, the feel-good chemicals kick in. So in the menopausal years, the feel-good chemicals don't kick in anymore, but instead we have this strong desire to do something for ourselves. And of course, we women, we have been, doing the house cleaning, the chauffeuring, the dishwashing and all that. Our self-esteem has gone down in the years, yeah? And many women give up their career or a job, yeah? So now we have this strong desire and we don't trust ourselves anymore. We don't have the confidence to go with that desire and say, yes, I want to do something for myself. So we ignore the desire, which causes even more frustration and irritability.
Wow. Age is looked at so negatively in Western society, and I'm sure you've researched that a little bit. Do you know how it's viewed in other societies? And can you talk much about this sort of obsession we have with ageing and how that plays in?
That's one of, actually, the other thing, menopausal women experience, they are mature aged and they experience age stresses. And the loss of our youthfulness is one of those age stresses. In our society, it's highly valued that we look beautiful, we look youthful, and, even car advertisements, still so often we see a beautiful looking woman sitting on the car. In Eastern society, the women have a position because they work together as a family, they work together as a unit, and everybody's experience is valued. So the mature woman, she has a position. She is helping to look after the kids of the kids, so the grandchildren. She is asked for her opinion. Her advice is needed. My children don't ever ask me for advice.
And it's like the concept of the Aboriginal elders, isn't it, Inge? It's the same idea.
Correct. Once we lose our looks, we are nothing anymore. We are not needed. We have no position whatsoever in Western society, which causes a lot of additional stress and depression in women.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it?
It's just depressing.
Well, no, because that's up to us to actually be the role models, to change that. And that's, look, I sit here at 53 and feel, I don't even really know what part of menopause I'm in. I've tried to not Google too much because there's so much out there that displeases me. I don't want to hear all the negative. But I was very blessed to have an Indigenous elder about 7 or 8 years ago say to me that she believed that menopause was a celebration of when we are able to hold the wisdom and the blood within. You're nodding your head. Please, what do you feel about that?
Correct. I get goosebumps when you say that. Very much. And that's why your introductory affirmation was to trust ourselves. We are holding it all. If we trust it, menopause can be a wonderful journey to empowerment, because really the hormones are directing us. We just got to go with it.
Well, I'm doing a bit of a science experiment on myself because I chose quite a while ago to really not want to go down the path that so many people in Western society are of having hormone replacement therapies, etc. And I thought, because my journey was, I did the hospital thing with births and had cesareans, and I thought, well, look, let's see if the other end of my life, if I can try and connect with myself and see if I can manage this myself. But it's purely an experiment. I've got no idea how I'm going to come out, but I'll make sure all our Love Life listeners know what's happening on the journey. But so far, I am actually taking on some new things, and I am being quite selfish. So I'm matching what you're saying. But I don't know, when they say having hot sweats, I definitely am having temperature change, but it's certainly not extreme. It's literally just like take a jacket off, put a jacket on. It's not like people will say that, they are wringing wet. So I don't know whether that's still to come, or maybe that's a body indication that I'm going okay. I don't know.
Interesting you're talking about this, Jane, because what happens if the woman isn't listening to her own desires, to her own needs? Yeah, that is causing that frustration. And that is linked to breast cancer by science now. Yeah. So for me, it's breast cancer, heart problems, and so much more. But for me, with my acupuncture background, for us, as we said before, the women are stressed. Yeah, they have worked all their life. They are stressed. The stress depletes our adrenal glands. Yeah, permanent stress completely depletes the adrenal glands. In acupuncture, the adrenal glands are part of the kidney system. If the kidneys are depleted, they are harming the liver. They take energy from the liver instead of giving energy to the liver. And if the liver then is harmed, it's the liver causing the hot flushes.
All right.
Oh.
And so it's almost, Inge, that the more disconnected a woman is, the more she's dishonouring her wants and needs, not listening to herself, not putting herself first, the worse her menopausal symptoms are going to show up.
Correct.
This
You
is
hit it.
groundbreaking.
I love this. This is fantastic. So it's like Mother Nature has given us an opportunity for us to really clear the last of whatever hasn't been cleared so that the rest of our life, and let's face it, people are living longer and longer. At 53, people could be saying I'm about to tip into old age, but the reality is I could just be halfway through my life. So the next half or third, whatever I'm blessed with, is designed to be the best, really be the best, because you've got that wisdom. Oh, this excites me so much.
It is exciting. It's about power.
Absolutely correct. And I think the main point is that, yes, we have all this stuff, we have all the belief systems, we have learned not to honour ourselves because we have learned that from our mother. Yeah?
Exactly.
And we want to make sure we don't pass it on to our children.
We've got to break that cycle, don't we?
But there are tools available. We are not hopelessly stuck with this. And even women who are experiencing the worst menopausal symptoms, I've worked with so many of them. EFT, emotional freedom tapping, will help to release the trauma, release all the negative belief systems. And in my coaching, I found within 2 to 3 months, the women have released most of the traumas and the belief systems. With that, the menopausal symptoms go, the hot flushes go, the anxiety go, the depression go, the exhaustion goes, the libido comes up again, they want to have sex with their husband again, they rekindle their relationships with their husbands, or if the relationship is not good, then they are confident enough to leave.
That is incredible.
Fantastic. Actually, every man should hear this, and if they think they're going to get more sex than they haven't been, they should be paying for booking their wives in to have a session with you, Ingram.
Absolutely. I tell you, it has crossed my mind 100 times to advertise.
Advertise to the men, yes.
So, Inge, what's your take on hormone replacement therapy then? What's your line on it?
I talked to a 72-year-old woman the other day, and she had HRT for 10 years. And when she stopped, she had hot flushes again. So I say EFT, not HRT.
Yes, and for the uninitiated, she's talking about emotional freedom technique, which is tapping to release deeper beliefs, deep-set beliefs, and changing yourself at a deeper vibrational level, yes?
Correct.
I feel that what I chose, and as I mentioned before, because I have lived probably half of my life in a very unconscious state, so now I want to be more conscious, but what I've chosen is that it'll be to the best of my ability. So I'm hoping that I can do the whole journey naturally, healthy, happily. But I just want to say to anybody that's not able to do that, there's no shame in grabbing whatever we need from Western medicine to be able to support you in your journey. But if you do this work at the same time, it's like when we talk about people on antidepressants, if you need them because you've let the situation get too bad, get on that stuff, get on whatever you need while doing the emotional work so that you can be on the supporting substances for as short amount of time as possible. I think that's probably the ideal goal there, isn't it?
Inge, what do you wish that more women knew about menopause and men as well? What's like common myths or things that people just don't get or they're uninformed about?
It's not the hormones that are causing the trouble. It's the stress.
That's pretty massive.
It's just as simple as that. And the stress is caused by us, the way we treat ourselves.
Wow.
So it's not the hormones. It's the stress.
It's powerful words there.
Yeah, it is. So what other little tools or tips do you have for people to be able to, they're listening to this podcast and they're going, oh my gosh, that's me, or that's my auntie, or that's my child, or that's my mother. What is it that they could be doing right now to start to move towards the reduction of their stress in their life?
I have 5 instant relaxation techniques that if you opt into my site, you can have them. But one of the techniques is a very, very easy technique. It's just gently stroking your arms or your hands. Very, very gently stroking your arms. It's a very pleasurable thing to experience. You can't have negative emotions and feel something pleasurable.
Wow.
Oh, I love
If
that.
you are in a stressful situation at work, just gently rub your lower arm.
That is such a good tip for children as well, because it's a very easy way to teach children how to de-stress if they're feeling overwhelmed in like the classroom or something like that. Yeah.
I think we need to see the whole world. Everybody pulling up at traffic lights just start stroking their arms and de-stress from road rage.
That's it. That's it.
But if you think of young children, like I know I have my acrylic face false fingernails, but from a really young age, that those tickles that I could do on the children's bodies when they were little babies, and that has continued at 17 and nearly 15, they still will go, Mum, can I have some tickles? And I guess that's that same thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's also an expression of love they're experiencing at that moment, which is pleasurable again.
Beautiful. So what's number 2?
Number 2 is yawning, and you start with fake yawns, and you go, oh, and you do at least 10 yawns, and by the second or the third one, it will become easier, but it's an instant stress relief. And if you combine the two, the yawning with the stroking, it's incredible the results you have.
That's fantastic.
I once heard as well that sometimes in a healing, if someone's having a spiritual healing, or they've just really kind of downloaded some new knowledge or had a shift, that the body immediately yawns. It's some sort of a release or a recalibration.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So it's a great stress relief, yeah.
Great.
So I'm doing a good service to the community when I'm sitting at an airport and I'm bored, and I play that yawning game where you stare at somebody and you yawn and they always yawn back. See, I'm actually spreading the de-stressing medicine without realising it. That's great. I love it. Thanks, Inge.
All right, number 3.
These are the little things we can do.
They are. What's number 3, Inge?
Number 3 of the stress release techniques, write down 10 gratitude, 10 things you're grateful for. Again, you can't feel negative and write something positive down.
Beautiful.
And if you do that as a ritual every evening or every morning, you will see results too. Absolutely amazing.
Very powerful gratitude work. And number 4?
Number 4, I think the 3 is possibly plenty, because I found if I give people too many, then they don't take them on.
Yeah.
So 3 people can easily remember. Everything else, then you go, oh, what was that one? What was that one? So the 3, they really stay in the mind.
Books and resources and tools for women in their 50s. I've seen the Dr. Christine Northrup, The Wisdom of Menopause. Can you tell us a bit about what her findings are, or other books and things as well that women might need to go to?
I think for women that haven't done any work at all, Louise Hay is always a good start. Heal Your Life is a wonderful start. She gives affirmations too, which is so important for us, because they put us in a positive way of thinking. Negative thinking creates disease. And the affirmations, it's really important to understand that the affirmations, they give us hope, they put us in a positive piece of frame. So Louise Hay, I really love her book. The new book has the beautiful new designs and pictures. It's just lovely to look at too, so you don't even have to read, you just look at the beautiful pictures and they warm your heart already. Christine Northrup, The Wisdom of Menopause is amazing. What I've got out of her book was what I was saying about FSH and LH, the hormones, how they make the feel-good chemicals kick in and they go to the brain to give the woman the desire to do something for herself. That's from her book.
Right.
It is a difficult book to read, but she has incredible knowledge in there, and she touches on all the other issues you talked about, Shane, HRT, herbs. She talks, and the thinking, she talks about everything. So she has neatly packed it all together.
And we might put a link to her book under this show on Facebook as well as your website, Inge. Yes. Inge, is there anything more that you'd like to, use this platform today to talk about or to share that you feel is important on the topic, or something you think we've missed?
We've talked about the most important thing. I think for women to be gentle with themselves, patient with themselves, and not think it's going to happen overnight. It's a process. If you haven't grown up or haven't learned to look after yourself, you won't just get it in one night. It's a process. You have to learn about yourself. You have to watch yourself, but be loving and gentle with yourself. We all deserve to be loved. And when we become grown-ups, often we feel nobody loves us, especially once the kids have left. But the thing is, it's our job to give ourselves the love first and foremost.
So learning how to really love yourself and connect with yourself is what you're doing in your retreats and workshops. Is that right, Inge? With the women, you're going into it at much more depth.
Correct, Rebecca. The first thing I look at in all my workshops and my retreats and the one-on-one coaching is to release all the belief systems. I'm not good enough. I can never get it right. Nobody loves me. I don't deserve. I'm not worthy. Because these negative beliefs, and we have lots of them, a lot more than I just named, but these beliefs are the base to us not trusting ourselves, to us not going for our own needs. So for a woman to love herself, we have to release the belief systems so she can actually see her beauty, see her magnificence and her amazingness. We don't have to be that slim, young, beautiful girl sitting on the top of the car. We are who we are.